Well, according to the Harvard Business Review, it states as much as 80% of employee turnover is due to bad hiring decisions. And the impact on an organization of making bad hiring decisions is estimated to be around 50% of an employee's annual salary. They're staggering numbers. This is the Moneymakers. I'm Bruce Whitfield. Tonight, I'm joined by a guy you know, former Springbok, Altec, Netstar, Chief Executive, Co-founder of the Pivotal Group, Joel Stransky. We're talking about his company's scientifically accurate performance prediction model. What? For companies to make use of to make better decisions when hiring and developing talent. One wonders if it'll work for rugby coaches, because then they'll be on to something, no doubt. Joel Stransky, the last time I saw an image of you was about 2 months ago, and your face was melted off. You looked like Arnold Schwarzenegger in one of those Terminator movies, where you had a gouge in the side of your head the size of a tennis ball. You fell off a bicycle.
I fell off my bike and had a little laceration. Actually, I phoned my wife from the hospital, and she was, obviously debating whether she should come down to Cape Town or not. And I said to her, I'm not as pretty as I used to be.
She must have been devastated, because, boy, you were pretty. But it's extraordinary in 2 months that, I mean, we've zoomed in, I hope, and it's extraordinary. In 2 months, you've healed well.
Well, I think I was very lucky. I had a great plastic surgeon who operated that evening, Anton Rust, down in Cape Town, and he did a marvelous job. I'd love to claim that I've got this incredible healing ability, but I've got to give credit where it's due. Anton was incredible.
It's remarkable. I mean, as I saw you the first time, I didn't really even notice, and then suddenly remembered this eye popping. And you've still got your eye, and it's fine.
I've still got my eye's fine, and this side of my face is a little tighter. I've had a semi-facelift on the one side.
So what you're going to do now is just match it on this side.
Exactly, exactly.
It's a slippery slope, you know.
It is, I know. What's next?
Beverly Hills 90210, whatever. Beverly Hills plastic surgeons.
I wouldn't know about all those things.
I've heard about them. So now listen, you can help us with hiring, because we look at, for example, the state of public enterprises, and we look at state-owned enterprises. Every state-owned enterprise I can think of has got an acting chairman, an acting CEO. Brian Molefe, I mean, could you hire somebody adequate using your system for the ESCOM job?
Well, we absolutely could, and I mean, every candidate would have to go through a rigorous little test and almost an assessment type process, but ultimately our AI solution would be able to match them against their job. Artificial
intelligence. So this is what you're using. Because in the old days, you would do one of those tests, those psychometric tests.
Well, you can't even do that anymore, because certainly not in the position where we position ourselves, because a psychometric test has to be done post the interview process. So our whole solution, the AI comes in terms of screening, matching, and ranking the candidates against the job profile right up front. So you eliminate all the subjectivity. That goes straight out the window right at the start of the process, and only right at the end do you go through a small interview process. But by then you've got your list of, for Brian's job, 3 or 4 top candidates, and you decide which one's going to be the best fit.
The first one would be Brian, second one would be Brian.
And the third one, Brian again.
Possibly. I mean, we make light of it, but we have a crisis of hiring in South Africa. I mean, that Harvard Business Review suggests this is a global problem. I mean, are the numbers roughly the same for South Africa?
Well, I think they probably are roughly the same for South Africa, and maybe even more so, because in this country we have the naysayers saying we have a skill shortage, and we would obviously dispute that and say we don't have a skill shortage. We just don't have a program to develop the youngsters, to assess who's got the talent, take those talented kids, get them on the right track, and then educate them appropriately. We have loads of talent in this country. It's just a matter of identifying them, getting them in the right career path, and helping them achieve what they're capable of achieving.
Creating mentorship programs and getting people actually trained and skilled for the jobs that are required.
Absolutely, and part of what we do as the solution is career guidance, subject choice for kids, and I think that's the first step really, isn't it? Saying to a youngster, are you embarking on the right journey? If you are on the right journey, what intervention is required for you to achieve what you're capable of achieving? And let's get the youngsters on the right track.
Because you're of a generation where guidance was introduced into schools, and it was the subject where it was before life orientation, but it was the pick your nose class.
It was. And you paid a fortune to pick your nose and get some advice that said you can either be call center agent or a doctor, whatever you want to be. I mean, there was no real advice.
There was no real science to it. I mean, I think they tried, and I think the psychometric testing that happened then was elementary. How has it evolved into artificial intelligence that allows you to say, okay, we advertised for a job in the Sunday Times, we've got 100 applicants for this particular job. What do you look for? How do you input the data?
So our solution is very simple. We drive those candidates to an online portal. They all build a little profile, pretty much like Facebook or LinkedIn. They go through a set of tests. Some of those tests are quite arduous. They're designed to put the candidates under a little bit of pressure, because that's when we understand what their skill sets are, what their real abilities are, and then ultimately, having measured them across a multidisciplinary type scenario. It's not just psychology or industrial psychology, neurosciences, team dynamics, epigenetics. We measure them across a whole field, except obviously in this country against psychometric psychology, because that can only be done post the interview stage. We then, the system automatically screens matches and ranks them against a set of job tasks, a naming convention for a job position. And it says good fit, bad fit, or not a fit at all. And ultimately we can screen them against one job or against many jobs. The system then, the cleverness of the system, is that it then spits out the right results. No subjectivity, no going into an interview process and I like mountain biking, so you connect with me, I love mountain biking, and all of a sudden there's friendly, no subjectivity, completely objective and unbelievably accurate.
Okay, so what sort of testing process has this been through? What is the track record of the science?
So the science was designed by a set of doctors, a bunch of guys. Dr. Jean Swartz was the lead scientist.
This is homegrown. This is a locally developed.
Well, it's semi-homegrown.
Okay.
Jean was educated here in this country. He's got 4 doctorates. He's got a set of colleagues, a group of colleagues in Europe and now based in New Zealand that helped him design the science behind it. As I said, it's multidisciplinary, so it's not just very polarized like many of the assessments are nowadays. Works across a whole set of different sciences, and because of that, I think it has a little bit more legs than those real, I suppose, direct polarized type of efforts. And some of those are good. Psychometrics is a very good evaluation of self-assessment of what we believe we are. And there's some other good tests out there, but this I think is the first one which operates across the board.
I mean, everybody thinks they can juke the test.
You can't juke the test.
When you go onto your vitality profile and say, are you crazy? No. But they ask the question in about 5 different ways, and by the time you've answered it 3 different, you've answered a 2 possible answer question 3 different ways, they know you're crazy and then can immediately discount your diamond status down to bronze.
Exactly, and that really is probably more like psychometrics, because you are giving your own view, your own self-assessment. It's like writing your own CV. It's always embellished a little bit. It's always a little bit
Speak
better
for
than
yourself.
Yeah. Well, we're creative as rugby players, aren't we? But the process is designed that you can't cheat it, because it is a skills test. It's about understanding how you cope with pressure. What is your working memory? Are you able to multitask? It's all things that you can't juke. You can't juke the test.
And how applicable is it across layers in a business? I mean, if you're looking for call center agents, have you got a program that you can be
Very
applicable
much
for
so.
call center agents, one for middle managers and one for executives and even board members?
So we have one solution for every single job profile you can think of, and that would be right from every different type of call center position: inbound service, outbound sales, debt collector, whatever it is. There's a different set of tasks that are required, different characteristics. We also take into account some cultural issues in the business. We do some pre-work with the management, sometimes with mid-tier, sometimes across quite a few different tiers. So we plug in things like culture, we plug in KPIs, and there's a few examples you can use where some measurements on KPIs are done against the Net Promoter Score, some on time of call resolution, same set of job tasks, 2 completely different individuals required. And so there's a whole lot that goes into this.
How though do you measure personality? Because can you test character? Because character, somebody comes into a meeting and you have people who are terribly convincing and are terribly engaging and might sway the final decision. 3 candidates, equally capable, go into a boardroom. Does the AI help differentiate in terms of character?
So I would start by telling you I'm not the head scientist, but I know Jean would explain this in a way that's very understandable. And you can't test it by asking 1 or 2 questions. But to your earlier point, you can understand some of the answers from earlier questions linked to the answers to some of these questions, linked to those, will give an idea of character. And I know we ask quite often, can we assess ethical behavior?
Yeah.
Can we assess honesty and integrity and things like that?
I was going there. Yes.
And the question is, the answer is it's quite difficult, but it is possible. But you would have to have an assessment or a skills test that is quite long then, because you'd need to link a whole lot of the answers from one area to 3 or 4 different sets of answers to get an overall
Who does
picture.
the analysis of all of this? Because it's all well and good to say to a board, we're looking for a new CEO, here are 3 great candidates. How does the board have faith in the process? Do they get the analytical tools? Does the computer just say, here are the 3 names, don't question me? How does it work?
Well, there's a lot of pre-work that goes into it, as I said, and we would decide on the process with the board. And we've been through a couple of quite tough board processes where we've had to find quite niche market COOs or CEOs, particularly in London. Actually, we had a case which stands out. And it's all about the process. So you would sit down, you define the parameters with the board up front. We then go through the process. We would furnish them with the reports. And ultimately, the AI system makes a recommendation. It doesn't say, you need to employ this oak. It says, you know, out of these 3 candidates, you need to sit down, interview these 3 and make a decision. But these are the 3 best candidates, and these are the reasons why.
And so it's not just in South Africa then, you talk about London hiring.
Yeah.
How widespread is the use of the program?
So we've got an office in the UK now that's ticking along quite nicely and making some good progress. We've got some big corporate clients in the UK. And
who's using you, the corporates or the headhunters?
So the headhunters in this country have adopted it. We're our first clients, but the corporates have come on board. And in the UK, some of the big audit firms and consulting firms are focusing very much around human capital management, and that would be the second use of the tool, is to understand, you know, the people in your organization, are they the right fit for that job, and what are their career paths, and if not, how do we get them on the right career paths. And in Europe, management of human capital is a real buzzword around all the auditors.
So could you be instrumental in the hiring of the next Springbok coach?
Absolutely. And
really?
I say that for the simple reason.
That's like hard skills, soft skills.
Exactly.
It's a massive combination of everything that is required to get a squad of 30 people cooperating to get to a World Cup final and not have to do some like last minute drop kick or something to win a game.
Yeah, so we couldn't measure the next Springbok coach's ability in terms of strategically outthinking the All Blacks. But we could measure his cognitive learning ability, his ability to think strategically, his man management skills, every other element of what makes up a good leader and a good coach. Plus, we would link it then to the Springbok culture. You
just want to clone Kitch Christie, don't you?
Well, I think you need to go a step further than that. You need to clone Kitch Christie, Nick Mallet, Ian McIntosh, all those who've been before and done well.
No, but I mean, it's an incredible space, and this technology which is being applied here, you're applying it then in the UK and into Europe. Yeah. And the rules are universal.
They are.
So it's globally applicable.
Almost universal, because there are some nuances that you need to take into account, particularly around the cultural issues. The nice thing, and I'll say this, the nice thing that we're doing in this country, and for that matter in Europe, and just as a matter of interest, coming back to your rugby, we are running a program right now that helps former rugby players in the UK find a career post-rugby. And that is really about understanding.
What do you know about that?
Well, not a whole lot, but I've got guys who've got guys.
Okay.
But in this country, the great thing is we've got all these young learners who have so much potential, and who we can try and help get on the right career path.
No, I mean, it's massively timeless. The co-founder of the Pivotal Group, Joel Stransky, is one of those guys who hasn't done too badly post kicking a ball around the field. There'll be more big issues to discuss next time on the Moneymakers, and this technology with South African connections going global. It's very, very exciting indeed. Can they get TV present? No, there's no hope. Thanks very much for watching. Good night.